Want to know what my superpower is? It's not my creative skill. It's not how I show up on YouTube. It's not even these dashing good looks. I mean, it's a thing, but that's not the thing. No. My superpower is that I can charge fearlessly into new projects whether I know what I'm doing or not. And people will stare at me in awe while I do them because for whatever reason, they won't. The other day I mentioned that I was going to do an Ask Me Anything video, and I invited you all to pose your own questions so that you could get some answers from me. And the most popular question was, how do I start with X?
X gon' give it to you.
X being the whatever project it was they wanted to start. Now I'm paraphrasing here because not all the questions were actually posed that way, but it's basically the general idea across all of them. How do I make a book in Affinity Publisher? How do I start a t-shirt print-on-demand business? What type of product should I use for my stuff? How do I go about selling my designs? First, I've answered all those questions in various videos. There's a search bar there for a reason, folks. Second, none of that matters because the answer to every single question is exactly the same. Do the work. Dismissive? Yeah, maybe. Easier said than done? Okay, sure. But here's the thing. Pick any project that I've worked on in the last 10 years and I can tell you that I probably didn't know what I was doing before I started. I just went and did them. Were the first ones scary? Sure. But after I did the first one, the second one was easier. And then the third, and so on. Start a podcast? Okay. How do I get it online? Make a YouTube video? Where's my camera? Sell my art through my website? Okay, there's gotta be a plugin for that, I'm sure. Self-publish my own book? Well, Amazon sells books. Let's start there. But the problem for most people isn't in getting started. I think plenty of people are motivated to start. I mean, that's how these questions get posed to me in the first place. The issue usually starts is when they begin their journey, they realize quickly that they're standing at the foot of a mountain. And when they look up, everything looks insurmountable. But instead of taking that first step, they walk around the mountain as if they're looking for the door to the elevator.
What's the Elvish word for friend?
Melon.
When what they really need to do is grab a hold of the rocks and start pulling themselves up. But wait, what if I told you that's not even the best way to go about it either? In fact, the best way to start any project isn't to start at the bottom of the mountain, but to go all the way to the top first. Wait, Dave, how do I get to the top if I don't even know what I'm doing? Yes, you do. You just don't know you do. Because that project that you're trying to tackle, lots of people have done it before you. And success leaves clues. The way I handle any new project is I start at the finish line and work my way backward. I know what I want to make, so I start looking at other projects that were made in similar fashion, and then I reverse engineer them so I can figure out where the actual starting point is. Let me show you what I mean. Yeah, we're doing this now. Let's say you want to publish a book. That says book, just trust me. First question you're gonna ask yourself is, how does it get made? How does it get published? Once you understand the basics of the publishing process, then you're gonna need to understand the basics of how to format a book. And in order to format, you're gonna need to know how to design it, so then we're gonna need to look into that. And then in order to design, we're gonna need to understand what structure we need for our book. And once we understand the basics of structure, well, then we can kind of coordinate and organize our content. And once we understand what our content needs are, well, then we need to write it. That's sit your ass down and write. Now that I understand each tier, I can more easily go from one to the next to the next to the next. But maybe it's not a book that you want to make. Maybe you want to start your own t-shirt design business. So if I'm thinking about making t-shirts, I need to understand, how do I get a t-shirt into the hands of a customer? By the way, writing on a whiteboard at this angle is very awkward for me, so if it's weird looking, I'm sorry. Once we figure out what fulfillment process we're using, what partners we're working with, well, then we need to figure out, well, how do I get that in a shop where people can buy? And in order for them to buy, I'm gonna need to know where I can even sell it. Now that I have a better understanding of how it gets sold, I need to actually make something to be sold, so we need to design some shirts. If I have a good understanding of how I'm gonna design it, I better understand what I'm gonna design and who I'm gonna design for. Again, last tier, all the way down to the first tier. And once I understand what's up here, and then here, and then here, and then here, then I can work my way back up. And you can repeat the same process for any project that you want to get involved in. Want to make a YouTube channel? Cool. Want to start a podcast? Awesome. Whatever it is that you want to do, you just break it down from top to bottom, and then you just work your way slowly all the way upward. Now, I totally acknowledge that these are an oversimplification, but, I've only got so much time. And each one of these bullets also required nuanced research themselves, so you've got some work to do. But when I break a project down like this, it's showing me that I'm not staring up at a mountain, but rather a set of steps, a set of tiers that I need to get to, and I just have to traverse each one as I go. As I cross through one tier and into the next, it doesn't look quite as daunting because I've already seen where I'm going, so I know, well, I just have to break this down into more tiers in order to understand all the different little things that I need to do within that step. And when you get all the way to the top and you hit that publish button, I give you all the permission of the world to jump up and down like Rocky Balboa. And the second time you make it, it's easier. And then the third, and then the 10th. The more you make, the better you feel. You know what also makes you feel better? Hitting that like button is proven to produce a serious amount of dopamine in you, especially when you know I appreciate it. Thanks very much. Okay, let me give you a real world example. I'm in the middle of an art project where I'm making 100 of these small art collages for an event that's happening in October. And part of the process is cherry picking my way through all these different pieces of magazines that I've found. And I was thinking to myself yesterday that it would be really awesome if I could actually use some of the digital textures that I've created for superlative.com. Don't know what superlative.com is? Well, it's where I sell digital goods. There's a link in the description. Now, of course, I could print them out, but my printer here isn't that awesome, and I don't really have the greatest paper on hand. I could also just take them down to the local copy shop and have them printed out there on better quality paper. Or I could bundle them together in book format, produce it through KDP, buy a couple for myself to use, and then sell the rest to random people on the internet. Sounded like a really great idea in my head, but is it even a thing? Is this something that actually happens on Amazon? Turns out the answer is yes, and what little I know about scrapbookers is that they are ravenous about this type of content. They love printed papers. Now, they're not all gonna dig my thing, but maybe some of them will like my radical style. I mean, I can't believe that all scrapbookers only want to look at flowery things and pastel geometrics. I can't imagine that's everybody. Maybe some of them are punk rock like me and want a little bit more edginess in their work. And since these books are basically free to produce, I don't have to pay anything and they're printed on demand, what's the downside? Even if they didn't sell to anybody else at all, I'm gonna use them, and that's a benefit. I mean, the cost of producing them for myself is inexpensive compared to me going out and trying to buy something similar. But you know what? Let's break it down. Let's bring this one back in. Can you see that? Obviously, we already know where we're gonna publish. We're gonna put it on KDP. The format or sizing, I'm not 100% sure on, so we'd need to do some research on what is probably the best size for somebody who does scrapbooking like this, because they're obviously going to want enough material in the book that they can cut out and use for different reasons. And if the scrapbooking books are huge, well, then maybe I need to make my book bigger, or maybe they're smaller and I just need to make them a little bit smaller. I don't know. I'll figure it out. The design is going to be pretty simple. It's just going to be a bunch of pages filled with images, and I might even want to double up a few pages because, you know, maybe they want to use one texture more than once. The structure is also going to be pretty simple. It's not going to be a whole lot of words, if any at all, and I've just got to lay them all out and figure out how many pages I want to produce. The content's already been created, but if I hadn't created it, I could always go make it myself. Like, say I wanted to make a bunch of geometric shapes and put them on pages, I could go do that. You know, writing doesn't really apply, but I just got to get it together. I just got to go do it. I just got to start organizing it on my computer and go. I have all the confidence in the world that if I wanted to produce that book, I could actually probably do it in just a couple of days. In fact, maybe by the time you see my next video, that'll be done. I don't know. We'll see. I got a lot on my plate right now, but very soon you're going to see that book, and I'll share it with you. I've already self-published a bunch of books and journals for myself, and so this is pretty easy for me. But you may be pretty new to design, and this may be a little bit intimidating for you still. You might not be as confident as me to charge headfirst into a design project like this, but that's okay. I've got this video that you can watch right here that'll help you with all of that. It's going to give you a little bit of tips and tricks to help you along the way. Okay? Guys, I'm out. See you next time.
Talk too much for too long. Don't give up, you're too strong.